Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're going right into a really powerful force for change in American history.
Right, the civil rights movement.
Exactly. And we're going to explore how strategies like civil disobedience and nonviolent resistance really shaped the protests back then.
Yeah, we'll look at some key moments, key figures, and try to break down how these methods actually worked and, the impact they had.
Our goal really is just to get a clear picture. How are these tools used to push for equality?
It's quite a story. How principled action, nonviolent action, challenged these deeply unfair systems. We'll look at the events, the people.
Okay, so let's get started. Maybe first make sure we're on the same page. What do we actually mean by civil disobedience in this context?
Right. So, civil disobedience, think of it as intentionally breaking a law you see as unjust, as a form of protest.
So you're deliberately saying this law is wrong.
Exactly, and I'm showing it by not following it. It often comes from a belief that there is like a higher moral duty than obeying an unjust law. Folks like Henry David Thoreau talked about this way back.
Taking a stand, even with consequences.
Got it.
And how does nonviolent resistance connect to that?
Well, nonviolent resistance adds another layer. It's protesting, yes, but with a strict commitment not to use violence.
Even if you're met with violence.
Especially then. That was key. The idea, heavily influenced by figures like Gandhi, is that meeting oppression with peace actually exposes the injustice more starkly. You gain the moral high ground.
It sounds counterintuitive, maybe, that not fighting back physically could be so powerful.
It does, but think about it. When protesters stay peaceful while being attacked or abused, it creates this really stark visual contrast.
Yeah, I can see that.
It can make people who weren't paying attention sit up and notice the unfairness. It builds sympathy, builds support, and puts pressure on the powers that be.
That makes sense. Seeing that calm strength, it's impactful. Okay, let's talk examples. Rosa Parks is probably the perfect place to start, right?
Oh, absolutely. 1955, Montgomery, Alabama. Rosa Parks refusing to give up her bus seat. That's a textbook case of civil disobedience.
She broke a specific segregation law.
Deliberately. As a protest against that whole unfair system.
And that one act,
Yeah.
it wasn't isolated, was it? It sparked something much bigger.
Huge. It directly triggered the Montgomery bus boycott. This was massive. A large-scale, nonviolent protest.
Where African Americans in Montgomery just stopped riding the buses.
For over a year. Think about that. Over 380 days.
Wow. That's incredible dedication. What was the impact?
Well, economically, it hit hard. African Americans were the majority of riders, but more than that, it showed this amazing community unity and determination.
All without violence.
Right. People organized carpools, walked miles. They found ways. It showed this powerful commitment to nonviolent resistance until that policy changed. They hit the system where it hurt financially, but through peaceful withdrawal.
And this is where Martin Luther King Jr. really comes to the forefront, isn't it?
Exactly. Dr. King was, already a minister there, but he became a key leader organizing the boycott. He was deeply committed to this philosophy of nonviolence.
He became such a symbol for the movement because of that deep belief.
Right.
So after the boycott's success, how else did these strategies get used?
Well, the movement saw the rise of sit-ins, another really effective nonviolent tactic.
Right at the lunch counters?
Mostly young students, peacefully sitting at segregated lunch counters, refusing to leave until served.
Even though they faced, well, terrible hostility.
Oh, absolutely. Verbal abuse, physical harassment, being spat on, things thrown at them. It took immense courage and self-control.
Just sitting there through all that.
They were often trained, trained how to remain nonviolent, how not to react with anger no matter what. And that contrast, their calm versus the hate, it just highlighted the injustice for everyone watching.
You can see how that would draw attention. So building on challenging segregation in public spaces, then came the Freedom Riders.
Yes, taking the fight to interstate travel, starting in '61.
What was the specific goal there?
The Freedom Riders, black and white activists together, rode buses into the segregated South. The goal was to directly challenge the segregation on buses and in terminals that cross state lines.
Because federal law supposedly banned that segregation, right? But it wasn't being enforced.
Exactly. They were testing those federal laws, forcing the issue.
And they faced extreme danger doing it.
Extreme danger. Beatings, buses being firebombed, many arrests. It was brutal.
But again, non-violently facing that violence.
It was strategic. It forced the nation, through news reports and TV, to see the brutality of segregation firsthand. It created a crisis the federal government couldn't just ignore anymore. It really pushed for federal intervention.
It feels like each action built momentum, leading to bigger things, like the March on Washington.
Definitely. The 1963 March on Washington for Jobs and Freedom, that was just
Oh.
huge. A massive display of nonviolent protests.
Hundreds of thousands of people, right,
Yeah.
in D.C.
Yeah. All gathered to demand civil rights, economic rights, equality.
What was the main aim of such a massive gathering?
To put enormous pressure on Congress, on the president, to pass meaningful civil rights legislation. It was a powerful show of unity and the sheer scale of the demand for change.
And that's where Dr. King gave his most famous speech.
The I Have a Dream speech. Right there during the march, it just perfectly captured the movement's spirit, its goals, that vision of equality achieved through nonviolence. It became iconic.
So powerful. After the march, did the focus shift more towards, say, voting rights? I'm thinking of Freedom Summer, Selma.
Yes, that became a major focus. Freedom Summer, 1964. This was a huge push to register African-American voters, especially in Mississippi, where it was incredibly difficult and dangerous.
Dangerous how?
Volunteers faced constant intimidation, threats, violence. 3 civil rights workers were famously murdered that summer. But the goal was fundamental, empowering people through their right to vote.
And then Selma, Alabama, another key moment for voting rights.
The Selma Campaign in 1965, a series of marches from Selma towards the state capital, Montgomery, protesting the systematic denial of voting rights.
And this led to Bloody Sunday.
Right. Peaceful marchers trying to cross the Edmund Pettus Bridge were brutally attacked by state troopers and local police. On live television, much of it,
Those images, they were shocking.
they horrified the nation. Seeing peaceful people, including women and children, beaten just for wanting to vote, it was a turning point. That public outrage created immense pressure.
And led directly to legislation.
Yes, it was a major catalyst for President Johnson pushing through the Voting Rights Act of 1965, which finally outlawed those discriminatory practices.
Looking back at all this, it's so clear. Civil disobedience, nonviolent resistance.
Yeah.
They weren't just tactics, they were the core strategy.
Absolutely central. The key thing is how effective they were, even against intense violence. They made the injustice impossible to ignore.
By taking the moral high ground.
Exactly. That gained public sympathy, built support nationally and even internationally, and that support was crucial for pressuring politicians to act.
So the aha moment is really about the power of that moral force.
Precisely. It showed that you could challenge and change an unjust system without resorting to the oppressor's methods. That principled, courageous, nonviolent action could be this incredibly powerful catalyst for real societal shift.
It's genuinely inspiring. And these strategies, did they influence other movements later on?
Oh, and massively. The civil rights movement's success with nonviolence became a blueprint, really, an inspiration for countless other struggles for justice and human rights all over the world. That legacy is still very much alive.
It really gives you a lot to think about.
It does. And maybe to help process it all, we could pose a few questions for listeners to think about.
Good idea. Okay, first one. What's the main idea behind using civil disobedience as a protest method?
And can you think of 2 key figures whose ideas really influenced the philosophy of nonviolent resistance in the movement?
How about this? Describe one specific event we talked about where civil disobedience was clearly the central tactic.
And how did the nonviolent nature of the protests actually impact public opinion? What effect did it have?
What was the main thing the Freedom Riders were trying to achieve with their actions?
And thinking bigger picture, what was the real significance of the March on Washington for the movement?
Okay, last one. What was the key objective of that whole Selma campaign?
Yeah, just some things to mull over, maybe dig a bit deeper into how these powerful strategies have really shaped our history.
Thanks for taking this deep dive with us. It's, a powerful reminder how strategic, nonviolent action can truly be a force for profound change.